Welcome to the Dusty Muffins, where menopause meets sisterhood and strength. We're three menopause specialists coming together to laugh, share, and empower you through the wild ride of menopause and perimenopause. Whether you're curious, confused, or just looking for real talk, you're in the right place. We're here to answer your burning questions, educate, and advocate, all with a dash of humor and a lot of heart. So pull up your chair and join the conversation. Before we dive in, please remember, while we're doctors, we're not your doctors. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice. We encourage you to partner with your own medical clinician to address your unique health needs. This is the Dusty Muffins.
I'm Dr. Rebecca Hurdle. I'm a board-certified osteopathic family medicine physician and a Menopause Society certified practitioner. I have a private telemedicine practice, and I see patients in several different states.
I am Dr. Aoife O'Sullivan, a board-certified family physician and Menopause Society certified practitioner, and I see patients through my telemedicine practice here in Oregon and Washington.
I'm Dr. Christine Harkress, a board-certified women's health nurse practitioner and menopause certified practitioner, and I see patients via telemedicine in several states as well. Welcome back to the Dusty Muffins. Today we're opening the door on a topic that often feels like it's slamming shut during midlife, our sexual health and the emotional landscape of our relationships.
It's so common to feel a sense of dustiness or disconnection as hormones shift, but the mental and relational side of that transition is just as significant as the physical one. Joining us to help navigate this is Rachel Boyle.
Rachel is a licensed therapist who holds a master's in couples and family therapy and specializes in women's sexual health and midlife mental health. She's a member of the International Society for the Study of Women's Sexual Health and hosts the podcast Burn The Rulebook.
Rachel, you're all about making these conversations evidence-based and, most importantly, shame-free. And we are so glad you're here. Welcome.
Oh, thanks so much for having me on. I've been really looking forward to this.
So, Rachel, we talk a lot about hormonal chaos, but you look at this through a nervous system lens, as I understand it. How do dropping estrogen levels affect a woman's sense of safety in her own body?
Oh, well, estrogen really regulates dopamine. And when that starts to get wonky, like that roller coaster, that happens in perimenopause, that can affect all parts of her mood. And so, like, as you guys know, you talk about this a lot. We have estrogen receptors all over our body, including in our brain. And so when that starts to change, there's a whole cascade of events that can happen with women and how they feel emotionally. And with mood, and especially, women can get anxiety if they've never had it before. If they have had anxiety, they can have panic attacks. Women can get depression if they've never had it before. And the most age range where women have suicidal thoughts is in perimenopause. And so there's just so much that happens with the emotional and the relational landscape in perimenopause that so many women don't know and they don't understand. So they end up feeling like there's something wrong with them, or that they're broken, or that they're not a good partner or a good mom. And all of this comes together in what I call the sandwich years, which is you're raising kids, right? Probably teenagers, which make you want to pull your hair out. And then you've also got usually aging parents that you're also taking care of. And for women, most of that emotional and mental labor falls on us, unfortunately, in heterosexual relationships. So all that is just coming to a head during the perimenopause years.
And whatever about women not recognizing this as perimenopause, I mean, even when they go to their doctor or their therapist or their psychiatrist,
right,
they don't recognize it either, right? It's missed everywhere.
It's missed everywhere. So women end up seeing 5 to 7 specialists before they even get an accurate diagnosis. So they're in the therapy room, right, trying to figure out what's wrong with them, and their therapist doesn't even know to screen them for perimenopause. They're going to several specialists thinking that, okay, I just need to do more breathing exercises to get all of this under control. I need to relax more. Let's do some meditation. And while all that is really, really helpful, it's not addressing the root cause, which is perimenopause.
Well, and the thing that I find really interesting that I have seen over and over again with patients, and I think it makes them really difficult to help manage their symptoms to improve quality of life, is that ultimately we get hormones what we consider to be optimized, but then it seems like during this transition, those old wounds or past traumas, like things that they thought were buried, resurface. And at a certain point, I often will say to them, look, this is not just about your hormones anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you really need to go deal. We got to get you in a place where you can try to deal with that, the old stuff. I mean, what have
Mm-hmm.
you found in practice about all of past traumas and wounds resurfacing and really hitting hard?
Oh, absolutely. So when I talk with my clients, I have four lenses that I look through, and these four lenses are like four legs of a chair, right? So you need all four of them to be in place for someone to be really emotionally healthy for their relationship and for their sex life. So the first leg of that chair is the medical piece, which you guys do, right? What's going on with your hormones, your B12, your vitamin D, are you getting sleep? Are you exercising? Are you hydrated? All those things go into that medical category, which is really important because if we don't feel well physically, then we're not going to feel well emotionally. We're not going to want to have sex. So that's one leg of the chair. The second leg of the chair is, do I like my partner? So you can love your partner and not like them. And this can really come out in the perimenopause phase, because that is when old wounds can come up. That is when women can feel like they're doing the bulk of the mental and emotional labor, that they're not getting enough, partnering from their partner. Like, I don't want to say help, right? Because then that puts the burden on the woman. Like in a true partnership, one person isn't helping the other person. They're jointly doing things together.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
You baddie, right? What can I do to help you?
Yeah.
You just tell me what I can do to help you.
Right. But then that puts you in a managerial role. Okay.
100%. But a part of me is like, do we also, as a mom of both boys and girls,
Mhm.
what can we also then, maybe teach our male
Mhm.
children, that so then they don't become that male partner saying those things, because I think sometimes our male partners truly are saying those things with really good intent, like, how can I help?
Yes.
And but it's not the right word, because it really just pisses us off, because it's not helping. This is your home too, this is your
Yeah,
responsibility.
exactly.
But but I think there's a part like, okay, so what should we be teaching them? Or what can I do as even just a mom raising, males to be really good partners, that I don't feel like I'm raising them different from my girls, but somehow there is a disconnect there.
Mhm.
Want the Dusty Muffins at your next event? We do panels, live podcasts, and talks that bring the heat, literally. Corporate, CME, or retreats, we've got you. So hit us up at the Dusty Muffins 333 at gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at the Dusty Muffins.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with that, because we do what we can, right, as moms and inside the home. And so, like, I have a son too, teenager, so he has chores.
Yep.
We view it as teamwork. So, he's got things that he does inside the house. But then we have all the cultural messages, right, that boys get, and they start getting them from such a young age in school, in YouTube videos, from their friends. It's just it's inundated. These are patriarchal messages that we get. And so part of that is the unseen labor that women do. It's really minimized and it's dismissed. It's not seen. So when we look at completing a task, there's three phases to it. There's the conception phase. I see what needs to be done, right? So in a lot of heterosexual relationships, this one gets lost, that the guys aren't seeing what needs to get done. They're not like, oh, the kitchen's dirty, let me go clean it, or the
Oh, I
floor
live
needs to
in
be
that world.
vacuumed. Right.
Right. Right.
Right.
Around like this.
So, sorry to interrupt you, but I did see an Instagram post on this just this weekend,
You did?
and it in both made me want to cry and also went, okay, at least he's trying. But he said, he was making this point about being partners and not
Uh-huh.
asking, how can I help?
Uh-huh.
And he said, so what I do is I go around the house as if I've just paid a very expensive company to come and clean my house.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm looking for things that they've missed. And I just do those things.
Oh, Good for
And I
him.
wasn't sure whether to cry or to think, yeah, that's great. It's like a bit of both.
Mindset change for them, like you said, and you're right. Some of it, I think, is the way, if you are in a house that is, the girls are doing work on the inside, right? Like I grew up that way, right?
Yeah.
The women made dinner, the women cleaned up, the guys were watching football on Thanksgiving, but they were the ones that would grill or do the outside yard work. And in my home, everyone does it. My daughter drives the lawnmower, my sons make dinner, and they do the laundry.
Oh, fantastic. Yes.
Yeah, all the things. So I always say to their female partners, I'm like, he knows how to do it all.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Just making him a good human, right? Fully functional in the world.
Functional human being.
Yes.
No, I think that I messed up though this week. I was telling the girls that Rebecca and I went to this conference last weekend, and I came home and my husband left me all of his laundry. The previous trip, I had said to him, because I knew it was going to make me mad, make sure you get the laundry done. I don't want to come home to having to do your laundry. So I came home to all of his laundry, which, escalated my mood. And then he sent me a text and he's like, I folded the laundry and moved the lights this morning, but I'm sure you already recognized it. And I was like, shit, I didn't notice it. I didn't notice it at all.
That's part. It's your laundry. It's your home. Like, I don't have to tell you. Oh my God, good job. You want a brownie button for that?
Well, he was trying to partner, I guess, because he realized he messed it up.
Well, and I think that's the piece though, like men in our generation, right? Men in our generation, they didn't grow up with it. So they don't even see it. Like they don't see it. That's the conception phase. And then there's the planning phase, which is a whole nother thing that they don't see. The planning phase is, okay, I know that my children's, Valentine's Day is coming up. I need to go to the store. I need to get the Valentine's Day cards, or Christmas is coming. I need to, get the cards for the teachers. I need to put gift bags together, or, I know what my kids like to eat for dinner and what they don't like to eat. So I need to make sure that the fridge is stocked with whatever they're going to eat. So that is the planning stage, which is also unseen. So for example, some people will be like, in heterosexual relationships, the guys will be like, okay, well, I fixed dinner. Okay, well, did you actually? Because did you do the conception phase, which is thinking for the week, what am I going to plan out? Did you check the refrigerator? Did you check the pantry? Did you put it on the list or go to the store and get all the ingredients and then cook the dinner? So what ends up happening is they do the last third of the task, which is the execution, and they think they've done the whole thing. Or they take the brownies to the school, they drop them off, but you've done the planning, you've done the conception and the planning, and they've done the drop off. So they think that they've done the whole thing when they've just done a third of it.
So is it a biological issue, or is it a generational learned?
Yeah, can it even be saved? If you got
is it an XY issue? Is it the Y chromosome?
No, it is a learned behavior, because most of these men, they do it at their jobs.
Okay.
So think about that. They do it at work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you know what really pisses me off every year?
What?
The asshole who decided to say that Santa Claus was a man.
Oh,
I mean, I think even the men think there is actually a Santa Claus, because every Christmas morning, there's so many beautifully wrapped Christmas presents that have come from nowhere. I actually think men believe there is a Santa Claus.
1 year.
Who the hell made him a man?
I did.
He's always been a woman.
Doing all the gifts. I was like,
done.
There you go. And
did the kids get anything?
And do everything, because I am like, I'm not doing this again. Now you get to do it all by yourself. And I woke up in the morning with, thank God it was before the kids got up, because we have a couple that were still young. And I got him up and I'm like, no, you have to finish the job before they get up, because it'll be run.
I think it's hard, man, for Gen X men. Like, they've been conditioned. They're like, they watched at home.
Yes.
Boomers. And then we were raised to be
independent.
well, no, we were the wife who like made it like we were happy with the fact that they were doing the back third of the work.
Yeah.
Like we can only I don't know. I can only hope that I make a better I have a wonderful husband, but I only hope I can make even a better man out of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
My son, my husband. Sorry. Clarify.
We're fighting a whole system, right, called the patriarchy, right? So it's not men that are the problem. It's the system that's the problem. It's the patriarchy that's the problem. Because all of us, men and women, grow up in this system. And so back in the 70s, the 60s and the 70s, women, we had a whole revolution, right? We started working, we started earning our own income, we started being able to have more freedom, more choices. We could, it wasn't until like in the late 1970s we could even have our own credit card without, a man signing for it or, buying property, getting a loan. So this is fairly recent, and it's our generation that all of this happened. And so what happened is women got all this earning power, but men didn't learn the emotional intimacy piece. So they kind of fell behind on that. And that is because our society still really reinforces this idea that men are supposed to be strong, that they're supposed to be really hardworking, that they're supposed to be a provider, but don't show your emotions, right? Because vulnerability historically is a soft female emotion. So even kids, like even my son, this day and age will still get made fun of if he cries. People will say, don't cry like a girl, like, don't be a pussy, right? Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So if they don't get it in our homes, they're getting it with their friends. They're getting it in the school somewhere. They're going to get bullied. And so that's still happening.
Feeling off in midlife? I'm Dr. Rebecca Hurdle, and I offer concierge telemedicine across multiple states focused on hormones, weight, libido, and sleep, and longevity. Let's get you thriving. So visit www.osteopathicmidlifehealth.com.
You were going through the 4 legs of the chair, Rachel, and I think we
Yes.
got through 2, did we?
We got to the do I like my partner piece. So do I like my partner, right? So we can love our partner and not like them. And that's the relational component, right? That is, what, we're not partnering fully here. I am exhausted. I am worn out, right? I want more emotional connection from you. Because there's 3 types of intimacy in a relationship. There's intellectual intimacy, which is, we're exchanging intellectual ideas. What are your beliefs? What are your thoughts? What are you learning? What are you reading? What new information are you bringing into the relationship, right? What vitality are you bringing intellectually so we can talk back and forth? And then we have emotional intimacy, which is what are you feeling? Are you sharing your inside world with me? Are you saying what you're hurt about, what your hopes and your dreams are? Are you being emotionally vulnerable and sharing that with me? And then there's the physical intimacy piece, right? Which is, hugging, kissing, cuddling, sex. So all of those 3 forms of intimacy, intellectual, emotional, and physical, are important to have a really vital relationship. And most men can do like 1 or 2 of those. And most women can really only do 1 or 2 of those because they have a really hard time with the physical intimacy piece a lot of time because of the messages that they've gotten growing up. So that's the do I like my partner piece. And so what happens a lot of times is that their hormones can be optimized, but they're having some issues in their relationship. Okay, so are you ready for the 3rd leg of the chair? The third leg is, do I like the sex I'm having? Right? So you can be fully hormone, you can be lubricated, your tissues can be fantastic, getting your sleep. You really love your partner, you like your partner, but then do you like the sex that you're having? So most of us have not been taught what really good sex is, men and women. And so that is a really important part, because if you're not having really good sex and you're not really enjoying it, then why would you want to keep having it? So that's really super important, and that we can get into. That's an educational piece. That's just skills based, and unfortunately, once again, not taught in schools. It's at some point, guys end up going to porn, right? And they think this is what sex is. And I tell people, I'm like, that's like watching the Fast and the Furious and thinking this is how I'm going to learn to drive a car. It's just, it's not even real. And
Right.
so that's an issue. And then women don't really know what kind of sex they want to be having. They've never thought, if I were to completely choreograph this experience from start to finish as to what would give me pleasure, what would really feel good for me, what would that look like?
Do people do that in therapy, Rachel? Do you have them write it down, talk through it with you? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so we talk about it, right? And so the one of the first questions that I ask is, when is the last time you had sex and how was it? So we start to deconstruct that. And I would say 99.9% of the time when I ask women that question, hey, if you were to have sex exactly how you wanted it from start to finish, what would that look like for you? They cannot answer me because they've just never had the thought before. They think of that they are the object of desire, right? They're supposed to look sexy. They're supposed to perform in a certain way, and that their partner, their male partner, and so this is not true in same-sex relationships. This is in heterosexual relationships, that their male partner's pleasure is what is most important. So that's why women end up faking orgasms, or they act like they're enjoying something that they're not really enjoying it, or they think if I'm not having sex as often as he wants to be having sex, then I'm going to lose the relationship.
So I gotta ask, so what's happening over there in the other world? Because something tells me that they're having better sex, same-sex partners?
Same-sex partners do not have the orgasm gap that heterosexual partners have. They
Because they have the same parts? Because they talk.
Yeah. Well, partly because of that, but also they also don't have the mental and emotional load discrepancy as well. On average, right? So this is not always across the board, but on average. So yeah, and it's not sex from the male gaze. So it's not penetration focused. Right?
Yeah.
So sex in our society is taught sex from the male gaze, right? It's destination sex. I put the P in the V, I thrust, you're supposed to feel good, I'm supposed to feel good, I have an orgasm, but you know what? The clitoris isn't inside the vagina, is it?
That really bothers me on TV shows now and movies. It just really bothers me how they portray sex, and always have done, but I'm becoming so much more aware of it over the last few years, you know.
Yeah, Bridgerton. I mean, don't even get me started on the last season of Bridgerton, right? Where they have sex and all he does is stick it in and she's looking like she's having so much fun. I'm like, where was the warm up?
Yeah.
Right? There's no way she's going to have an orgasm like that.
Yeah.
Like, and this is what romance is supposed to be?
That's not how she writes her books, in fairness.
Oh,
the lady always comes first in her books.
Really?
She's very clear. She's very clear about that. Yeah.
So what the hell happened when they produced this in a TV show?
And it was made by a woman as well. You know, I was shocked too and disappointed.
Now I'm going to have to go back and catch up on Bridgerton and go watch the sex scenes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you should be doing that anyway, Kristen. What else are you doing with your time?
Today.
There are some really good romantasy books out there that really prioritize women's pleasure in the writing and in the relationships. Those are really fun.
It's fascinating.
I know, but our boys aren't seeing those. That's part of the problem.
No, they're not seeing it.
Right?
And the porn nowadays is not even like the porn 10 years ago. Like, it can be very, very violent.
Yes.
Yeah.
We know there's a huge problem in college now with boys thinking choking girls out is completely a normal part of sex.
Yep.
You know, it's
fairness, I think, and it can be both ways, right? The girls think that this is okay, or if these boys aren't being that way, then, you know, I mean, having to protect both your sexes, you know, as a mom that have kids that are in college and of both sexes, just trying to protect them both as they're navigating young adulthood. You know?
Well, and there's peer pressure too for girls to have aggressive sex because that's it's been normalized, which is really scary.
It's fine if that's what you want to do. You know, no discrimination,
Sure.
Your pleasure, but you know, they're just, I think there's something happening that for both genders that, we're either just not realizing or not understanding. And how do we,
Mm-hmm.
how do we educate them
Mm-hmm.
and be proactive about allowing them to navigate a healthy, you
Mm-hmm.
know, sex life and be safe also,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, well, even in like, let's say that you're a couple who wants to have really rough sex. Okay, there's a lot of safety talks that need to be happening before that happens, right? Because there's a fine line between I'm going to put my hands around your throat and you passing out, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And this is happening in casual sex. This is happening early on in relationships. And there's no trust built up at that point. Men are statistically larger than women. They're stronger than women. They may not know the strength of their own hands. And so, if people want to engage in that, yes. And also, this is something that there needs to be a lot of talking around because of the safety that would be involved in something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
there's a
think
big difference between wanting that and
Mm-hmm.
being made to feel like that's normal
Mm-hmm.
and pushed into it, you know.
Agreed.
Yeah.
mhm.
What's the fourth leg, Rachel?
Oh, yeah. The
We're
fourth
going
leg
to
is the
call this the
patriarchy.
four legs.
The four
Just call the whole
legs.
episode the four.
Yeah, we need all of it, right? So the fourth leg is the patriarchy, right? And that's kind of what we've been talking about. It's all the messages that we receive from literally by the time we pop out of the womb, the messages that girls receive are different from the messages that boys receive. And so they did this study and they went into classrooms in kindergarten. And in kindergarten, boys were curious. They were sharing their inner emotional world. They were thoughtful about their friends' emotions. They're sensitive. They cry when they feel like it. They're not guarded. And girls are outspoken. They say what's fair, what's not fair, what they like, what they don't like. Very bold. So by the first grade, boys stop talking about their emotions. And by the third grade, girls stop stating what they want and they start saying things like, I don't know. What do you want to do?
Have you been told your labs are normal, but yet you still feel exhausted, foggy, and gain weight simply by looking at a meal? Well, you're in good company. In midlife, normal isn't enough. You deserve to feel like yourself again. I'm Dr. Christine Hart-Kress, a board-certified women's health nurse practitioner and certified menopause specialist. I deep dive into the areas often overlooked: hormone optimization, thyroid health, gut health, medical weight loss, including administering testosterone therapy for women. No rushing, no insurance hoops, just a blueprint back to a vibrant life. I'm accepting new patients in Virginia, Florida, and 5 other states. Book your clarity call at www.christinehartcrestdmp.com.
Yeah.
And where's
I
that?
remember seeing a little experiment once. Oh, sorry, where this lady set up an experiment and she put this lemonade stand together
Mhm.
and she didn't put any sugar in the lemonade. So it was just lemon juice and
Yes.
water. And she
Yes.
got a group of little boys to come and
Mhm.
taste it. Well, they immediately spat it out. They were like, that is disgusting. You didn't put
Uh-huh.
any sugar in it.
Uh-huh.
I want some sugar. And then she brought the group of little girls in, and the girls were like, you could see they were nearly going to vomit. And they were like, oh, that's delicious.
Mhm.
Oh, it's so lovely. Can I have some more? Like, they were so filled with platitudes and, they knew their role. And they were only probably 5, 6 years old.
Yep. And they already knew that they needed to not hurt other people's feelings, that they sacrificed themselves in order for other people to not feel bad. And that fast forward that now into grown up adult relationships where on average, not all the time, right? But on average, women end up bearing the burden of that in relationship.
Yeah, that kind of comes down to that Instagram post that you posted where, boys lose feelings and girls lose their voice. That's exactly
Yeah.
what you just, said. And it is true. And I think I've probably seen that, in my own family, and I don't think that we do it here. I think it's society. I see it more, right? At my house, my boys can cry, my girls are very well
Yeah.
supported, you know. But you do see a change because, even in my 9-year-old who's very emotional at home and very sensitive,
Mhm.
he he has told me that there are things at school, he can't say, or he can't be as
Yeah.
emotional because he's a boy, right? So he's starting to
Yeah.
learn those things.
Yep.
And yeah, it's just, so that is more society and cultural
Yep.
things happening even at home, if you're trying to make it at, I don't know what the word is, but for both of the genders of your children to not be to be that way. That's interesting. It's an interesting point.
Yeah, it's really tough. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Rachel.
I was just going to say, we have three main spheres of influence, right? We have our family that we grow up in. So think of these as like concentric circles. So we have our family of origin. And then we have our community. Community is school, it's any kind of volunteer organization. For people who go to church, it would be church. And then we have society. So when we look at the patriarchy, we may or may not get it in our family of origin, although most of us do get it on some level. We definitely get it in community, and we absolutely get it in our American culture. So there's no way for it to be avoided, really. And so education around it is super, super important. It's about that making the unseen seen. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. This is why women get so angry, because they've seen it and now they cannot unsee it. You see it everywhere once you see it.
I'd say all four of us probably see a lot of women, especially going through perimenopause, where they feel very disconnected from their sexual self for so many reasons, not just physically, but mentally too. Is there a particular piece of advice you could give to a woman like that today who's listening that might help her start to kind of reclaim her sense of pleasure or identity?
Yeah. So when you say disconnected, are you talking like emotionally disconnected or physically disconnected? Is she like, give me a little more?
Yeah. Like recently I had a patient who said, she actually, what was that hockey show with the two guys?
Yes.
The one everybody raves about that says is hot.
Yeah.
Heated rivalry.
Heated rivalry. Thank you. Okay. So she only told me after she watched Heated Rivalry. She's like, I actually thought I was kind of dead inside sexually. I didn't feel any, I just thought I had no libido, and never thought about sex. And then she watched Heated Rivalry, and she said that reawakened things for her that she thought were dead. And so I bet if we asked a lot of our patients and friends, they would say a similar thing, So someone
right.
like that.
So I would go back to the four legs of the chair, because, well, you would know if her doctor, if she's like fully hormoned, right? If her medical side is good, but then it comes back to, do I like my partner? Do I like the sex that we're having? And women, they don't even know that they're not having good sex. This is part of it. They've not even been allowed to think about what good sex would be like because of the patriarchy. And that fourth leg of the chair, which is all the messages that we get. I grew up at a time in high school where if a girl was having sex, she was called a whore or a slut, right? If she got pregnant, oh my God, the shame around the pregnancy, where with a guy, they were getting high fives in the locker room. Even today, when we talk about body counts, there is a stigma if women have more sexual partners than men have. Right. So even today, and especially, I don't know, did any of you guys grow up in any like religious household?
No.
Okay.
Thankfully.
Okay. So I did, and there's a whole culture around sex and religion that's really shaming. And for your listeners who may have grown up in a religious household, and these households are still alive and today, very much so across the United States, they'll have like, purity talks. And so they'll use phrases like, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free, right? Like basically, why would I marry you if I can have sex with you without, like, your value is determined by your virginity.
Yeah.
Or like they'll chew a piece of gum and then say, okay, here, you want this piece of gum now that it's been chewed? Oh no, it's gross. So if someone's had sex with you, now you're used like a piece of gum. Yeah. So I know it's shocking, right? So the value of women in these more conservative religious organizations, their value is the most important thing they can do in their life is to become a wife and a mother. And that value is dependent on their virginity. And I'm like, okay, so what about lesbians? There's never been any penetration with are they all still virgins? Like, what's happening here? Like, it's all about the penetration. The penis going into the vagina somehow just ruins a woman's value. And then that's also taught that that's all men want. And that's unfortunate for men because then it's just boiled down to sex is all that they want. So there's no really room for them to have any emotional intimacy.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of pressure for
It
them.
runs deep, doesn't it?
It runs so deep. And so women who've been raised in these, belief systems, they get into their 40s, 50s, their libido's dropping anyway because of the hormones. And now there's all this shame. There's all of this. I can't even be allowed to think about, you being the pursuer in my relationship, or I can't even think about like owning my own sexuality because I received so many messages that was bad and it was wrong and it was shameful. And that all that shame is stored in the body. Like we have a physical sensation of it. It constricts the body. And whenever we're having sex, we dip into, it's a combination of our parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. Both are activated at the same time. It's something that's got to be relaxed into. So if I'm worried about all these messages that I've gotten, my body's going to tighten up internally. My pelvic floor is going to tighten. My vaginal canal is going to tighten. I'm not going to get lubricated and everything is just tight. And so now how hard is it to put, and like these men are now like in their 50s. So maybe not a not so hard penis into a vagina that's clamped down and not very lubricated.
So what's a girl to do? Because I think everybody should be having the best sex of their lives right now.
I want people to start looking at these four legs of the chair and start looking at, okay, which areas of this, the leg of the chair do I need a little more help in, right? Because we can undo those belief systems. There's really great therapy out there for women who have a lot of shame. There's like EMDR is super great, parts and memory, because it's a somatic therapy addresses that energetic feel of those belief systems in the body. And to also get educated. Like there's some great books out there on how to have really good sex. Like, becoming clitorate is super, super great, or She Comes First, or, you're not broken by Dr. Kelly Casperson. Like these are all just really great resources that women can actually learn about. How do I have good sex? Because women are still thinking that they're supposed to be having sex through vaginal penetration alone. And that's why I love Dr. Lori Menz and Becoming Clitorate, because it's like, that is such a small, small part of the population of women that are able to orgasm. And it's actually really related to how far is the clitoris away from the vaginal opening and whether or not the clitoris is getting stimulated during penetration. And they just don't realize it.
List those four legs for us again before we go, Rachel.
So the first one is the medical piece. And the second one is do I like my partner piece. And then the third one is, do I like the sex that I'm having? And then the fourth one is the patriarchy, which is all the belief systems. They all those legs impact all the other legs.
It's a huge relief to hear that we're not broken. We're just navigating this complex transition that requires a new set of tools.
This was fabulous, Rachel. And for our listeners, if you want to connect with Rachel, she practices in Bellingham and offers virtual sessions for clients in Washington and Nevada. And I highly recommend her podcast, Burn the Rulebook, for anyone ready to ditch the shame around their sexual health.
We want to keep this conversation moving. So if this episode gave you a sense of hope or a new way to look at your partnership, please like, share, and follow the Dusty Muffins. Send this to a friend who might be feeling a bit stuck right now. And let's help each other burn those old Rubiks together.